Welcome back to Las Vegas, Nevada and South Point Hotel and Casino, home of the Pro-Am Poker Equalizer. Let's take a look at the tournament structure. The starting chip amounts for the amateurs, $150,000 in chips. For the pros, just $100,000. There are 6 preliminary matches, each comprised of 4 pros and 2 amateurs. The winners will advance to the final table, where they'll get a shot at the $500,000 first place prize. Button on Erick Lindgren, action on Jose Canseco. 10-9 of hearts here.
Again.
Makes it 20,000.
Raise. 20,000.
It's a pretty small raise.
2.5 times a big blind. But when you're four-handed, you can afford to raise less than 3 times a big blind.
Phil Ivey's going to defend with ace-7 of spades here. Clearly, he wants to have opportunities to play pots with Jose.
Do it. Do it.
And here comes the flop. It's 8-4 queen.
This is a very disconnected flop. It's very difficult for either player to have anything. Phil knows that. He's going to take a shot at the pot with a bet. And Jose folds quickly despite having an inside straight draw. He needed a jack to make a straight.
Disciplined play there from Canseco. And despite being an amateur, he's actually played quite a bit of poker.
As a professional baseball player, played a lot on buses, on planes, so probably for about 20 years. Well, in baseball, there were definitely certain pitchers that used to tip off their pitches in certain situations, so we used to look for that all the time, and hopefully we can find one here. I mean, these guys are such good professionals, they may not have certain tells or certain tip-offs, and we may not have enough time to actually decipher them, so it's going to be very difficult. My style would be to play consistently, inconsistent, and lucky. That's about it. Basically, just have no one figure you out.
Consistently inconsistent. I really kind of like that.
Don't forget lucky, Phil.
I love that.
That's another important way to play this game. They say I'd rather be lucky than good.
Well, Phil Ivey is both. He's picked up yet another monster hand, ace-queen, just limping in from the small blind.
Oh, an ace-king for Jose Canseco. Big slick. He has Phil dominated and just checks.
How is there not more money in the pot here?
8 queen ace on the flop and potential disaster for Jose here.
Well, Jose has a pair of aces with the king kicker. Obviously, Phil Ivey's outflopped him with 2 pair, and Ivey has slow played, just checking and calling the 10,000.
He's got his fish on the hook, doesn't he?
Certainly does. And turn card is 6 of spades. No help for Jose. Another check from Phil Ivey, continuing the slow play. 20,000 from Jose, and Phil Ivey should come out of his shell now with a big raise.
Instead, Phil just calls here.
Very strange play.
And here comes the river card. It is the 10 of hearts, and Phil Ivey checks again.
Unbelievable patience and slow play from Phil Ivey here. He has slow played 4 times on this hand. Before the flop, after the turn, now after the river.
And Jose is betting 35,000.
I'm all in.
Now Ivey comes out of his shell with the all-in, and a quick call from Jose. You can't blame him for that move. And Jose will lose the pot and be eliminated from this tournament. Masterful slow play from Phil Ivey.
Ace.
I got him covered.
Huh?
I think I got you covered.
No, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he got me with the queen and the kicker. Awesome.
So you're not going to take your shirt off?
I was.
Well, he lost his shirt.
Can't blame him, though. He had the best hand going in and got slow played by the professional, Phil Ivey.
Why Phil Ivey's one of the best in the world. Once that ace hit the flop, it was pretty much inevitable that all the chips would go in.
Looking at the chip count, Phil Ivey is now the leader with 383,000 and change. Erick Lindgren is dipped to second. Cheryl Hines with 54,000 hanging in there. And Jose Canseco, just eliminated, is with our Mika Bucket.
Jose Canseco, very exciting. You hung in. What was going on in that last hand when you went all in? What did you think Phil Ivey had?
Well, he played it extremely well. I think when he got the queen on the flop, he played like he didn't even get a queen, and he kind of slow played it and reeled me in. I mean, he's an exceptional professional, and I knew, I guess, when he went all in, I almost stuttered, didn't call it. I thought, well, maybe he's got 2 pairs, but I was so pot committed already, so I just went all in, and he beat me with a kicker.
Now, you're a man who's hit a few home runs in your life. How would you describe your play today?
It was average. Hopefully, I wish I could have stayed around a lot longer. At first, I was struggling getting cards. I even had to bluff a couple times to get some chips in. But you got to play an ace king. The flop didn't come out in my favor. I was hoping I'll pull a king somewhere along the line, but it didn't happen.
Thanks, Mika. And now Cheryl Hines finds herself all alone with 2 pros.
I don't like this spot if I'm her.
I don't like this spot if I'm me.
Up against Ivey and Lindgren, and you're the short stack? Very intimidating for Cheryl.
8-3, not going to cut it. She ducks out of the way, leaving the 2 pros to cannibalize one another here.
Ivey limps in on the button. The 8 deuce. And Lindgren gets a free look at the flop with the ace-6. And Lindgren flops the top pair of aces.
Ace-10-7 on the board here. Erick checks over to Phil, who bets right out.
And Erick's certainly going to check raise here. He's flopped the top pair. Yeah, he makes it 25,000. It's a perfect number.
Weak-looking bet from Phil there on the button. Bet the minimum, 8,000. And now he's going to call.
I don't get this play at all unless Phil's going to try to take this pot away after the turn.
And that turn card is the Jack of Clubs, giving Phil a gut shot straight draw. Erick checks once again over to Phil. And Phil bets out 40,000.
What? 40,000?
40.
Erick trying to figure out if he's got the best hand. He's not really worried about this bet, but he's worried about having to call a big bet on the river here. He is out of position. He knows that if he checks here, he's going to be faced with probably a monster bet on the river, and he's not going to like that too much. This is the value of position in No Limit Hold'em, and Ivey has taken advantage of it perfectly in this hand.
But he's done so obviously sensing weakness from Erick as well. It's not a haphazard play from a guy like Ivey.
Right. I think if Erick calls here, he has to be committed to calling the river if an innocuous card comes off.
And he knows it. He makes the call, 40,000.
I expect to see a check call here on the river for Erick.
And that river is the 4 of diamonds, no threat. And Erick checks once more.
The only way Ivey can win here is with a big bet. He has to tell a consistent story. It's probably putting Erick on a hand like Queen 10 or 10-9 or maybe 10-8. Those are the hands that seem to make sense to me.
Those would, of course, give Erick a straight draw to go with his pair.
Ivey trying to figure out how much he has to bet to get Erick to fold one pair.
And remember, Phil has nothing. He has 8 high here.
Well, he's got heart and he has position. He's going to use both here with a big bet. Looks like 80,000. And now Erick, tough decision for him here.
He feels compelled, obviously, to make the call on the river, given that he thought he had the best hand on the turn. But things just don't add up for Erick here.
No, they don't.
Probably should fold it on a turn, huh?
There are a lot of hands that Erick can beat.
Ivey knows Erick is putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Man, this is a great hand. I love seeing these two guys battle like this. But this really shows the power of position in No Limit Hold'em. Ivey has no shot to win this pot if he's first to act. But on the button, he has got a great chance to use that position to maximum advantage. And it worked. Erick Lindgren has laid down the best hand, and Ivey has really gotten away with murder.
Show me one card. Why you want to see one? Show me one. That one, yeah. Which one? Bottom. This one? Bottom one, yeah. I can't show you. I don't
Lines are going up to 6 and 12.
You're a terrible friend.
Good,
Terrible.
good.
Huh? You're a terrible friend. You know you're my man, Erick.
And a rare moment of both relief and joy from Phil Ivey.
It's probably a good lay down. Probably.
Probably a good lay down because you had 8 high, Mr. Ivey.
Probably would have been a better one on the turn. What you have? A draw. So you got nothing. You didn't have a pair. Pair. Queen pair with
Queen 10.
Queen 10 of club.